can understand and monitor your life, observe the time when that baby's going to come. If natural doctors can do it because of science, what can spirits do? I'm explaining it from this place because some of you are pregnant. Some of you are spiritually pregnant because of your intimacy with God. And the enemy is causing all kind of ruckus because he wants you to abort it. He wants you to miscarry. He wants this thing to be adopted by him. So he's causing confusions and pains. He's calling stuff in areas that you don't desire because he's already monitored your time. He's observed it because he understands that the time is close. The time of deliverance is now. This is why the Bible says in the book of Obadiah, on Mount Zion there shall be deliverance. And God is trying to bring some people into their place where they had been delivered because this is the time that God desires to birth everything that he's placed in you. There's business that's getting ready to be birthed out of you. There's manifestation. There's ministry. There's family. Some of your children are getting ready to be birthed out. This is one thing that I love about God, because God himself will allow you to put a family in you to birth them out. Some of you have no idea, okay? When the Bible said when it came down to Rebekah, God told Rebekah, because she didn't know what she was carrying. She understood her pain, but she didn't know what she was carrying. God said, you don't have kids in you, you have nations in you. And some of you, the reason that your battle has been so intense, you got evil watchers watching you that's trying to afflict you, because what God is getting ready to do with you is so you can birth out nations. You're getting ready to birth out nations. And this is the crazy thing. And the thing about watchers, observers of time, these are the same people that you're called to birth out, but these people don't want to come out and they fight you. You're trying to birth your own family out. Your kids and they don't like you. Your kids and they don't honor you. Your kids and they don't respect you. These same people that you're trying to birth out is fighting you because they don't want to come out. They don't want to come out of sin. They don't want to come out of drinking alcohol. They don't want to come out of smoking, because the enemy understands that if I don't get the ones that are assigned to them, the ones that God has called to birth them, I'm going after them, because he wants you to have a miscarriage of who you've been carrying, because he understands that this is the season and the hour. So this is why some people are going through the greatest afflictions and challenges and fights that they're going through, because the enemy has already observed the time. He's already watched you. He's an evil watcher. And some of you have become disgruntled and upset because of your pain, not understanding that your pain is a gain. The word against, sometimes God will give me revelation in word. In the word against means gain. A gain. And some of us are frustrated because what's against us, not knowing that what's against you, there's a gain in it. You're getting ready to gain authority. You're getting ready to gain power. There's a gain that's in things that are against you, and God is leading you, but you cannot quit because of the evil watchers, because of the observers of time. Now, I'm going to say something. I want us to hear this, because all throughout scriptures, we see observers of time. Watching time. Watch this. In the beginning, so let me say this. And I said I was going to be simple tonight. I'm going to do my best to be as simple as I can be, so we can get an understanding. Now, I know many of you may not have heard the name Nostradamus. It's not in the Bible. Nostradamus was a wizard, sorcerer. So was Merlin. Nostradamus predicted events years before they ever happened because he was a watcher of time. He was a wizard. He can predict events, what would come. Still got predictions and prophecies that are out right now that haven't happened. There are so many predictions and things that he had said, prophecies that came to pass. You remember the Mayans? They would predict things and things will happen. Without godliness, they were making predictions. These were observers of time. And they said in 2012, the world would end. Now, I'm going to express something, I'm going to say something, and I want y'all to hear me. In 2012, they say the world was supposed to end. Minds. Do you know? How did they get that information? How did they have any understanding of that the world would end in 2012? Now, they all died off. They didn't see that they wouldn't exist anymore. But the world was supposed to end in 2012. A meteorite was assigned to hit the earth because they was observers of time, and it shifted and it missed the earth. You can go do your research on it. They was observers of time because the enemy wanted to destroy the earth in 2012 by using the hemisphere and by using the stratosphere. He wanted to use that to be able to destroy the earth because he knew if he destroyed the earth, then Jesus couldn't come back. Then salvation wouldn't take place because he is intimidated and he's afraid of that time. He's afraid of that time. And what God needs us to do, that's why I said earlier, you have to teach in season and out of season. You have to bring seasons into fruition. That even if you don't see the season that you need to see, you need to create the season. You need to speak things in the heavenlies and things shall exist. Okay. I said that these are watchers of time. I'm just going to give you some scriptures. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 18. Deuteronomy chapter 18. I'm going to take my time tonight. And I'll try to explain it as best as I can. 18, it should be verse 14. Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 14. It said, for these nations which thou shalt possess, hearken unto observers of time. And these are observers of time. How can they learn to observe time? This is exactly how Satan functions and operates. He understands the importance of time. He's an evil watcher. And what God is trying to express and explain to us today, they got demonic powers that are watching and observing times and seasons. And I told us this, that when it come down to even babies being born, that you'll know who came from heaven because of the angelic activity. You'll know and you'll understand that these people, evil watchers, the observers of time, these people know and understand exactly when your season is about to happen. When your season is about to come, they can peep into futures. I said I'm going to be simple. If you think that wizards cannot peep into your future, go to Isaiah chapter 38. Isaiah chapter 8. Isaiah chapter 8. Let's go back to Isaiah chapter 8. I said 38. Go to Isaiah chapter 8. Isaiah chapter 8. I'll do my best to be simple tonight. Isaiah chapter 8. Go to verse 19. Tonight we're talking about monitoring spirits. Monitoring your life. Taking your portfolio. Watching what time you go to work. Watching what time you come back home. These are monitoring spirits. Watching your actions and your behavior. Creating circumstances and situations to see if they can get you emotionally stimulated so they can monitor and what knows how you're going to respond, how you're going to move, how you're going to act. These are monitoring spirits that create circumstances and situations because they understand that I'm going to monitor everything about your life. So what God is trying to tell you tonight, that you're under surveillance. Many of you are under surveillance, and you don't know that you're under surveillance. Isaiah chapter 8, verse 19. I know some of you already read it. And when they say unto you, seek unto them the familiar spirits, watch this, and unto wizards that peep, and that mutter, should not a people seek unto their God? For the living to the dead. The Bible said they have wizards that peek. They're watching your entire life. They have peeked into your future. So they know exactly, based on times, based on how things operate in the earth realm and in the heavenlies, they understand that when your season and all of that comes, because they're peeping. In other words, we used to say, peeping Toms. There was a singer back in the day, I'm trying to think of his name. I think his last name was Rockwell. He used to sing with Michael Jackson. He had one hit wonder. And one of his songs was that I feel like everybody's watching me. Somebody's watching me. That song. And this is how the enemy, and if you don't have discernment, you won't know that you're being watched. These are monitoring spirits. And I'm going to express this. I remember when I went to the Bahamas, and I'll give you an example, because when you start talking about monitoring spirits, you have to go beyond bodies. Natural bodies, human bodies. You have to go beyond bodies in order to understand that these are monitoring spirits. And I'm going to explain to you how these spirits work when they come to animals. How monitoring spirits work. When they leave natural bodies, they go to these animalistic bodies. When I went to the Bahamas, I'll never forget. There was a dog that laid on the porch where we stayed. When you saw the dog, if you had discernment, you knew that there was a spirit that was in that dog. That dog sat upon the porch as if he was a pet. He wanted people to pet him while he watched them. He wanted to watch the interaction, how they went in and how they went out. This dog was monitoring them. And I remember telling the dog when I looked at him, I said, leave this ground now and don't ever come back. The dog walked off the porch, walked to the end of the driveway, looked back. I said, didn't you hear what I said? The dog looked back at me and walked off. And the dog never came back until we came back. Not understand that this was a monitoring spirit. This dog was there to monitor our whereabouts, our coming in and going. And if you don't understand it, you'll pet something that's watching you, that's trying to destroy you. These are monitoring spirits. I didn't understand it. When I finally came back from the Bahamas, I went to work. I was on the phone with somebody that's in here. And all of a sudden, a black crow followed. I'm looking around, I said, man, this bird watching me. How do I know that this bird was watching me? This bird came for my head. Birds don't attack humans. It was a black crow. It came and tried to nip at my hat because it was watching me. Because that same bird was frustrated because I had just came back from the Bahamas, not understanding that this was a monitoring spirit, and they were using witchcraft in the dog eyes that were coming around. When I walked out of my house today and got in my car, the only tree that birds were chirping in, that birds were communicating in, was the trees in my yard. It was in no other tree on my street. But when I walked out of my house, I saw it. I said, these are monitoring spirits. Every power that is trying to watch me, I blind you permanently. You cannot be on my property. They were trying to watch my whereabouts. They were trying to watch my location. They were trying to watch what time I went in, what time I went out. They were trying to watch. And when I knew that, I said, these are monitoring spirits. And when you come from the beginning and look at the beginning, see, most people don't know that these things are watching them. Well, where do you find monitoring spirits? You won't find monitoring spirits unless you look right here in Isaiah chapter 8. In verse 19, he said, and wizards peep. They peep because they're watching, they're monitoring spirits. But you have to go back to Genesis chapter 3. You have to go back to Genesis chapter 3 because it's in Genesis chapter 3 where you find the first monitoring spirit. The first monitoring spirit took the body of a serpent. I told they can become animalistic. They can take on the bodies. And the first thing that he said to Eve, you know that he was monitoring her life because he heard the conversation that God gave to Adam. Did God not say eat in the tree? So monitoring spirits, they listen to your conversations. They can hear what God has told you. You think that they don't understand English. They don't need an interpreter. They understand the languages. So just by God speaking and communicating to them, they understood the assignment that God gave them. So this is why you got to be careful of discussing what God has told you to snakes. You have to remember that the snake didn't go on his belly first. The snake had legs. And some people don't understand that this is why people keep slithering around you. Slithering to try to talk to you, to try to get information out of you, because they're just monitoring spirits. The serpent came to Eve and said, have God not said? What has God said about the tree? Can you eat from any tree in the garden? And the Bible said that the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field. He was cunning. Satan used his body. And the reason that you find bugs, snakes, frogs, dogs, hogs around you, you have no idea that the enemy is using these spirits to monitor your whereabouts, to monitor your actions, to see how you operate and how you function. They're watching you. Now, I know that you're saying this is kind of hard to believe. This is hard to believe, and you think that birds and stuff can't watch you. You think that they can't be monitoring spirits. I'll give it to you from a clean place. Well, how did Elijah get fed? How did those birds, those ravens, know where he was located? The enemy will try to use what God has used to benefit him. So the serpent heard the conversation. He was monitoring the whereabouts of Adam and Eve because he knew they had dominion. He knew they had authority. And the only thing that will cause them to fail would be the tree. So he went to the only thing that will cause them to fail because he heard the conversation from heaven. This is why sometimes when you're communicating with God, you got to command that monitoring spirits, their eyes be blind and their ears be deaf, that there shall be no communication. You will not be able to hear what's taking place in my entire life because these are monitoring spirits. Now, I'm going to say something. I'm going to talk about insects. I'm going to talk about insects. When God was showing me at one time, he was showing me about spiders. I was being attacked by spiders. Okay, so let me say this, okay? I'm going to show you, I'll say something, but you're going to have to stay with me. When I left Africa, a country I went to, God told me your assignment here is finished. You've done everything I told you to do. I left Africa, and when I left Africa, I came home, and I was tired. You know, they celebrated me when I came home. I laid down, and I fell asleep on the couch. And when I fell asleep on the couch, the first thing that I saw, it wasn't natural. This was a spiritual thing, but I'm going to show you what happens naturally too. It was a spiritual thing. I saw a tarantula. I live in a 2-story house. I saw a tarantula, and that tarantula was the size of my house. But that tarantula was trying to crawl through the back wall. And when God showed me that, I woke up out of my sleep. I said, what? He was showing me certain things. Now, I want you to see this. After I saw the vision, I didn't know that spiders, natural spiders, would come in my house. I was taking a shower, and the Lord say, look up. I looked up, and there was a spider watching me. It didn't move. It wasn't intimidated. Neither was it afraid, but it was watching my moves. It was watching how I communicated and how I talked to God. It was watching and listening conversations that I was having. And if God didn't give me the revelation, I wouldn't understand about monitoring spirits. So they use bugs. You think they don't use bugs? Okay. When God said, I will restore back unto you the years, he said, I'll restore back unto you the years that the locust, the caterpillar, the cankerworm, and the palmer worm, they have eaten from you. He said, this is my great army. Now, he's saying that I'm calling for the locust, the caterpillar. God said that these were his great army, but these are insects. When God wanted to bring one of the curses on Egypt, what did he tell Moses to call for? He said, raise your hands and call for the locust. The locust came because it understood Moses. So when God is talking about certain deities, when you start talking about monitoring spirits, this is why you see vultures in your neighborhood. This is why you'll see owls in your neighborhood. And you see them and they allow you to see that they're seeing you because these are monitoring spirits. Hawks. And you're like, ain't no rodents around here. But they're watching your whereabouts. When we first moved in our neighborhood, one of the first things that I kept hearing was sounds of wolves. Every night I would hear a sound of a wolf or wolves in my backyard. And the Lord told me, he said, this is the power that controlled the neighborhood. And I would see them scratching at my back gate. I would hear them scratching. Watch this. No rodents. I would hear them scratching at the back gates. But the Lord, when he explained it to me, he said that this community was ran by jackals. Okay. Now, I know that when you say the word jackal, when you look up the word jackal literally means death. So these were spirits of death that had taken on the body of wolves that ran the neighborhood. Watch this. And now today you won't find a wolf in our neighborhood. But they're monitoring spirits. And all through scriptures, which I'm probably going to take you and walk you through some scriptures today, because the enemy is intimidated and terrified. That enemy, that monitoring spirit that took Adam and Eve out, it went to the next generation. In Genesis chapter 4, The Bible said when it came down to Cain, when Cain, before he killed Abel, God tells Cain, he said, why has your countenance fallen? Don't you know that if you do well, I'll receive you? But if you do not, he says, sin is crouching, it's waiting for you. In other words, it's watching you. This was Satan because the Bible calls Satan sin. He was sin. He was a monitoring spirit. And all throughout scriptures, God keep expressing and explaining to us that these spirits have been watching you. These spirits have been watching you since birth. So they know what you like. Okay. In other words, I'll send you the woman you want. I know what you're used to. So I'll send her. I know the man that you're used to. I know you like the ones with good hair that smell good. I know you like the light-skinned ones. I know you like the ones with muscles. They have been watching you. They have monitored you. And some of you have slept with monitoring spirits. Do you know Delilah was a monitoring spirit? She was sent to Samson. The kings paid her $1,100 apiece, all of the kings, only to find out what his weakness is. So when you find people that carry these monitoring spirits, they're after your covenant. What is your strength? Where do you get your strength from? His strength was the place where God established his covenant. Monitoring spirits only go after your covenant, and they'll do whatever they have to in order to break the covenant that you and God have. She cut his hair while he was asleep. How do you fall asleep and not realize somebody's cutting the covenant of your hair? These were monitoring spirits. And the enemy will send you someone because he understands, I've been watching you and I know what you like. You don't like to argue. You don't like to fight. You don't like to fuss. You like this. This is what you like. And some of us do like to fuss. Some of us can't go a day unless we fuss. It's just a part of our makeup. What are you looking at? I was looking at you had something on your shirt. Not realizing what the enemy has tried in our life. He's tried to disturb and destroy our life. When you look, the prophecy that God gave, the woman, he shall bruise thy head and thou shalt bruise his heel. When you look in the book of Revelation, y'all please hear this. See, this is for the church because the enemy has been monitoring the church. These are monitoring spirits that's been trying to take the church out for eons. But when you look in the book of Revelation, in Revelation chapter 12, the Bible said there was a woman that was pregnant. Go to Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. This same monitoring spirit is intimidated because he understands that his time is short. Revelation chapter 12. The Bible said, and there appeared a great wonder in the heavens, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with the child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared a wonder in the heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them into the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, watch this, which was ready to be delivered for to devour her child as soon as it was born. He was monitoring. I'm going to show you through scriptures. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared of God, that she should feed her 1,203 days. Verse 13, It said, and when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child, and the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she did nourish it for a time and times and a time and a half for the face of the serpent. It wasn't a dragon, it was a serpent, because the prophecy in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, was that the woman wouldn't fight the dragon, the woman would fight the serpent. So he had to go back to his original state. Watch this. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that they might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seeds, which kept the commandment of God and have that testimony of Jesus Christ. When you said it, the woman, and I told you that one of the issues that we have in society right now is the same issue. The issue has not changed. The Bible said that the second that Jesus was getting ready to be born, the woman who carried the child, the enemy was waiting because he was watching her womb. He was watching for the timing of that this child would be born, because this child was supposed to rule a nation. So when you go back to Exodus chapter 1, in Exodus chapter 1, you're going to find that this same being, this same deity, this same power was waiting at the womb of men, the womb of women. It was waiting at the womb of a woman. The Bible said when it came down to the midwives, there was a new Pharaoh that did not know Joseph. And when this Pharaoh came, the first thing that he did, he told the midwives that when the babies come out of the womb, he was watching for when they came out. If you see a man child, then you kill the man child, because the enemy understood that these was watchers that were waiting on time. The enemy understands time. I told you, the Bible said in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 14, that these are observers of time. So how did the enemy understand time? Okay? I'll give it to you. Most of us, maybe some of us are mathematicians in here. We got a couple of teachers in here. God told Abraham in Genesis chapter 15 that your descendants would be in the land that's not theirs for 400 years. So the second that Joseph went into Egypt, the enemy started calculating time. Time started because he understood that a deliverer was going to take place, because he was listening to the conversation as he would listen to the conversation with God, Adam, and Eve about the tree. So he was listening for the time. So now, because he understood that time was coming into fruition and that some leader was getting ready to be born, a deliverer was getting ready to be born, and the first thing that he said was take the children when they come out of the womb with the midwife and kill every child. But when they didn't kill the children, just as it was in Revelation chapter 12, it said the serpent opened his mouth. Why didn't fire come out? It said, and water came out. Now, I'm saying this for a reason about the monitoring spirits. Water came out of the mouth. So when it came down to the children of Israel, when it said that when the children was born, King Pharaoh said, throw the children in the river. If water came out of the serpent's mouth, out of the dragon's mouth in the book of Revelation, when it came down, because you have to understand that he became a serpent. When you look on Pharaoh's crown, the crown of Pharaoh was a serpent. So in order to rectify, in order for you to understand and know who was behind them killing the children, they were killing the children because they didn't want the deliverer to be born, because they was observing time, because they were monitoring spirits. So Satan was behind it. Go to Ezekiel chapter 29. Ezekiel chapter 29. Ezekiel chapter 29. And we're going to go to verse 1. I'm trying to get the... Verse 1 said, in the 10th year of the 10th month, the 12th day of the month, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and prophesy against him and against all of Egypt. Speak and say, Thus saith the Lord thy God, Behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the dragon that lied in the midst of the rivers, which have said, My river is my own, and I have made it for myself. So God is expressing and saying the reason that they threw the children in the river, because the dragon was in it. This is the reason why they use water. Do me a favor. Go to Psalm 74 and verse 13. Psalm 74 and verse 13. I'm trying to illustrate and use something about the waters. It said, verse 13 said, Thou didst divide the seas by the strength, thou breakest the head of the dragons that were in the water. This was the same dragon that went after the children. This was the same dragon that was monitoring time. So the time and the day that we are living in, the time and the day that we are living in when it comes to monitoring spirits, look at abortion. That every child that has a destiny, that has a purpose, these children are being aborted, and they are being aborted, and they're taking their bodies. They are dying before time. So cancer had somebody that was supposed to heal it. Not a doctor, but a healer. But the enemy killed it through abortion because he understood that he was calculating the time, because these are monitoring spirits. So he made the mother depressed so the mother would miscarry, because he understood the time. They are prophecies that God desires to fulfill, and that prophecy is associated with some sort of time. But the enemy has been calculating time because he said that he understands time is short, and these monitoring spirits have been taking people out. In 1 Corinthians chapter 16 and verse 9, many of you, God has opened the door for you. The Bible said there is a great and effectual door that has been opened unto me. It said, but there are many adversaries. Okay. If there's a great and effectual door that has been opened unto you, then how did the adversaries know that the door was open? The adversaries are fighting you because they understand that your door is open. Jesus said in Revelation chapter 3, he said, For I know your strength. It is little, but you have not denied me and you have kept my name. He said, I've set before you an open door. There's an open door that has been set, and the enemy standing right in front of your door. This is why your adversity has come, because they have monitored that you're going to exit one season and enter into another season. This is why they're fighting you. They're standing in front of your great and effectual door. They understand they have been monitoring your activities. They have been watching you. They have been listening to you. And they understand you. They understand that this is your season. For every word that you are receiving, every word that you are receiving, these enemies have heard God speak. They have heard what God said. Please hear this. Don't think that the enemy don't know God's voice. If the enemy didn't know God's voice, then how could he make him bow? How could he make him obey? He's been hearing the voice of God, so he knows when God speaks to you. He understands it, and okay. You know, I can tell you when you know you're getting ready to change seasons. Your family members show up. Your family members start tripping. Watch this. In Genesis chapter 37, the Bible said when it came down to Joseph, when Joseph had a dream, when you understand this, that the woman in Revelation, she had 12 stars over her head. Stars, it represented the 12 tribes, but those stars represented God's government. When you look at Joseph's life, he had the same stars and the stars had to bow down. This is the season where the enemy must bow down in your life, because what God is getting ready to do, the enemy is going to have to bow, and he understands that this is why they stripped Joseph. They stripped Joseph because the enemy heard his dream. Not only are monitoring spirits watching, but they're eavesdropping. They are eavesdropping spirits. They're trying to eavesdrop. In other words, we would say they nosy. So when you find nosy people, when you find nosy people that want to know everything, where you going tomorrow, what you eat, what you're wearing, and us not understanding about these monitoring spirits. And some even ask, well, how's your husband? Is he at home? How's your wife? And you're giving all the info. Oh, he's just loving, he's caring, he's kind. Every time I just need something, he just do it for me. My husband make this kind of money. I'm so proud of him. And you're giving all the details. Okay. You're giving all the details so they present their tale. You're giving all the details about your spouse. You're giving the details so they present their tale. Because they have been waiting for you to tell them about who you were connected to, not understanding that these were eavesdropping and monitoring spirits. So anytime they want access to your life, they come around your life to ask you about your life. And many of us, we're so happy to express where we came from, what we have achieved, what we have overcome, not understanding they're trying to find a weakness. They're trying to find a way to come in. They're trying to find a way to disturb you. They're trying to find a way to destroy you. They're trying to find a way. As Delilah, she was an eavesdropping, monitoring spirit, and she wanted to find out. Tell me what your weakness is. And tried to use the expression of love and emotion. You don't love me. Not understanding that when he gave his secret, he lost his covenant. And when he lost his covenant, he lost his strength. And the first thing they took out is his eyes, which means his vision. The enemy is after Christians' vision. Not their natural eyes, but he's after their vision, because he's been monitoring their life and he understands their seasons. How would I know he's after your vision? The Bible says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And when you look at Samson's life, his life, he perished because he didn't have any vision anymore. He just wanted revenge. He didn't want life. If God let his hair grow back, why didn't he could have asked for his eyes to grow back? He could have asked for his life back. He said, let me perish with the Philistines. Look at how the enemy deceived him. He was supposed to rule for as long as he lived. He only destroyed 3,000. And we brag about him destroying 3,000 when it should have been more than that. But the enemy, these monitoring spirits, came and took his life. Took his life because they were monitoring his life. But please hear me. When some of us operate in the season where God has called us to operate in, then we torment them, and they understand time. They understand because they know you. When Jesus would step in the sanctuary, the Bible said when he stepped in certain sanctuaries, in Luke chapter 8, the Bible said that demons would cry out and say, have you come to destroy us before time? Because they understood that we know who you are. We know that you're the Holy One of God. So when you operate and look like Christ in the earth realm, when you take on the image and likeness of who he is, when you can step inside your office building, you can step inside the place you work, you can step inside a gas station, you can step inside a grocery store, and the enemy will be tormented and tortured because they understand that somebody has stepped in here, and we understand that we know our time. It was so funny to me at my job. I used to laugh at this all the time. I would step in certain places, and people would start running. And they would say, we don't want you to prophesy to us. That we know exactly what you're going to do. I know, and people would take off. At first, I'm like, what? Oh, here he come. Men would run. Here he come. People at my job, when I stepped into a place, they would know because they knew my spirit. They knew what I stood for. And this is why people don't like you. Okay. Let me say this to us that some people who don't know. Why would people run from you and not like you and talk about you? Why? I'll tell you why. When you truly carry the anointing of God, the Bible said it's the anointing that destroys and breaks the yoke. So when you walk into a facility, when you have people that don't like you or that don't want to be around you, that person understands that if you come too close to me, I'll break that yoke. I'll destroy it. So they're yoked up with the enemy, and they don't want that yoke to be broken, so they flee from you, but they still watch you. They watch everything you do. They listen to everything that you say. They watch all of your movements because these are monitoring spirits. So Satan is using their bodies. He's using them to watch you. And this is what you do when it comes to monitoring spirits. This is not, me. I'm a little different, y'all, when it comes to monitoring spirits. Okay, y'all watch. Just like you watch TV, watch me. Because I know my lifestyle. I understand that you know the season that I'm about to come in. And there's nothing you can do to stop this season. Okay. I don't want you to be deterred by monitoring spirits, by people that monitor your life. Okay? I tell you why. I tell you why. The Bible is clear. The Bible said that God has given me a table in the presence of my enemies. Watch this. He never said the enemies were going to eat with you. They're only going to watch you. These are monitoring spirits. So I sit at my table. I put on my napkin. See, people thought I was crazy because my understanding is completely different. I walk around at work like this with a napkin on. They know I don't eat at my job because I fast when I'm there. I sit down and I wear a napkin. I walk around with a napkin, and they're wondering because they're all watching me. I walk around with a napkin, and I'm telling God, Lord, I'm preparing. I see my enemies. Now prepare my table. God prepares the table in the presence of my enemies. I know that it's time to eat. So my enemies are watching me. So watch. So even when they try to stop my promotion, you can't stop my promotion because promotion doesn't come from God. It comes from man. So you're trying to stop my elevation from coming at the time. But it's too late. You know my time is here. This is your season. This is why you're seeing blackbirds. They're not flying south for the winter. No, they're watching your house. Watch this. This is why some cats can come around you. Not realizing that cats are coming to your facility, coming to your house. Watch this. And some cats will come and urinate on your property to mark your territory. The urination is only a sign. They're marking territory. They're not coming to be friendly. They're watching you. Dogs will come right in your yard and drop a load. not understanding that these are monitoring spirits. That the enemy is using their bodies to watch you. And then they always want to run up to you. Not realizing that the enemy has been using spirits, people, circumstances, in situations to monitor you. This is why you have to pray. Okay. You know, when the Bible said in Psalms 91 that destruction will not come into me at noonday. So many times that you're on the road, they already know the path that you're going to set. Let me say this to you, okay? Let me say this to you. And I'm going to say one thing I'm going to say tonight that's probably going to be deep. If you ever smell a skunk, that skunk knew that you were coming down that street. So they released their scent so that the scent can come into your AC vents. And you didn't know they were monitoring your whereabouts. Let me say this too. Watch this. There's some dead animals that lie in the street. It's not a coincidence that they're in the same street that you're driving down. And you may happen to run over them, but that thing was a sign by which that you may run over and blood will be on your tire. So there was a sign to take your car out. Have you ever had an animal run in front of your car? These were monitoring spirits. They knew you wasn't going to hit the animal, so you was going to try to veer off and tear up your vehicle because they were monitoring your life. These are monitoring spirits. And oftentimes we don't know that what's watching us, what's monitoring us, these are observers of time because they know that God is getting ready to bring you into one of the greatest seasons of your life. So they're monitoring your season, they're monitoring your time, and they know that the door has been opened. So this is why conflict and confusion is breaking out in your life, because they understand that you're getting ready to come into the greatest harvest because of your pain. God is going to reward you for your tears. I'll give you beauty for ashes. You're getting ready to be rewarded, and the enemy understands that you're getting ready to come into this thing that God desires for you to come into. You're getting ready to go into the great and effectual door. You're getting ready. This is why birds are falling. Go to Job chapter 28. Let me show you about fowls. Birds, fowls. Job chapter 28, I think it's verse 27. I'm trying to get myself together. In verse 7, I figured it would do that the second that I would click on it and highlight that. Okay. It's crazy. Oh, okay. I got to watch this. When I talked about earlier the fowls of the air, I talked about it, and I want us to understand that the enemy will use birds. The Bible calls them fowls of the air to follow you. We don't know and we don't understand why. This bird looked like it's following me. And one bird leave and another bird then come. You go to a restaurant, birds are sitting in the tree. Cheep, 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 birds sitting on your car. You don't understand why. But this is a prayer that I want us to pray when you start seeing birds fly over your house. It looked like the bird is watching you. Watch this. It said, there is a path which no fowl knoweth, which the vulture eye have not seen. And these are prayers that you must pray when you start seeing these birds, these fowls of the air. Now, I know I'm talking about something natural, but when Jesus was expressing that a farmer went out to sow seeds, a farmer went out to sow seeds. And when the farmer went out to sow these seeds, the Bible said that some, the fowls, ate it. And Jesus would come back and explain the parable to his apostles. He said the fowls is nothing more than Satan, that the wicked one comes and steals the word that was sown in their heart. So any time that God gives you any kind of word, the enemy has been watching whatever God gives you. He's watching what you say. He's watching what prophets tell you. The enemy has been watching because he's watching you, because he's monitoring you, because he's trying to steal from you, because he knows that he's the fowl. But in Genesis, the Bible said that God said, I give you dominion over all the fowls of the air. And Jesus will call the fowls Satan. He's the wicked one, because he's been watching. He's been sitting on time, in time, waiting for events to change and take place. Do you know that they killed all the kids in Moses' day? And when Jesus was born, how did the wise men follow? They were watchers. How did they know? They were watchers. Let me explain this. You don't find good wise men in scriptures. There are no good wise men. When Jesus was born, when they brought gifts, God changed them when they brought gifts. This is why the Bible said, and they sent them out another way. That means another way means God changed them. God gave them a dream and sent them back. You cannot go back the same way that you came. And this is what God is trying to do, even to the evil watchers, to send them back out another way. But this is the season where God is finna blind every monitoring spirit. He's finna deafen the ears of monitoring spirits so that you can walk into your season, so that you can be fruitful in this season, and they will not know what path you have taken. The Bible said that the path of the just is sure, and their way shall shine forth even brighter and brighter. The path of the just is sure. There is a sure path that the enemy will not be able to follow you. Watch this. Because Pharaoh was a monitoring spirit. When you look at Exodus chapter 14, the Bible said that Pharaoh came behind the children of Israel. He started following them because the Bible said that he thought that they would be trapped. And when the enemy thinks in your life, he thinks that you're trapped because he's been monitoring you. Didn't understand that the Red Sea had to open. That what he thought would be impossible now became possible because you obeyed God. And the Bible said that God said he's going to have his vengeance against every monitoring spirit, against Pharaoh and his chosen chariots. And the Bible said the second that they walked across and Pharaoh tried to go into that season, it said that the Red Sea closed. And my prayer tonight for you, that everything that the enemy has tried to do to you, that the Red Sea will close upon your enemies. That any power that's trailing you, that's following you, that's watching you, that the doors would close on your enemies. There is a place. Watch this. Because while they're watching you, God is watching your enemies. The Bible said that the eyes of the Lord are in every place. If the eyes of the Lord are in every place. He said, my ears is attentive to their prayers, but my face is against them that do evil. And who is he that will harm you if you are a follower of that which is good? So while the enemy is watching you, God is watching your enemies. And God is going to deal with your enemies from them trying to harm you, from them trying to stop you, from them trying to delay you. Because monitoring spirits try to delay. What monitoring spirits hate is prayer. They hate people of prayer. The second you start praying, monitoring spirits cannot stand people that pray. When Daniel was praying, Daniel said, I refuse to hide. He opens the window in his house, and monitoring spirits are watching him pray 3 times a day. So they tried to make a rule to stop him. And God, watch this, the same thing that they tried to do to Daniel, The Bible said King Darius put them now in the lion's den. Watch this. I want you to hear this. And it said the lions didn't eat them, they just broke their bones. I'll say that again. The lions did not eat the people that came against Daniel. They shut the mouth. It said an angel came down and shut the mouth of the angels when it came to Daniel. But it said God didn't shut the mouth, nor did an angel come down. But the angels didn't eat them because the angels realized that these were people that were unclean. They didn't even want them. They just broke them into pieces. These are monitoring. I'm telling you what's getting ready to happen to your enemies. This is getting ready to be the greatest season of your breakthrough. And the enemy understood because he has calculated your freedom. He has calculated liberty. He has calculated your promise. And some of you are getting ready to wave bye to the people who have been watching you and persecuted you. You didn't think that I was getting ready to come in. It's called exit. You know what an exit is? An exit means wherever you find an exit, there's a door. And the enemy has tried to stop you from your exit. When you're on your freeway, you only exit when it's your time to get off. This is your season to get off because this is the exit. Let me give someone a prophetic word that's watching. Since this is your exit season, I'll break the word exit down. X, it. Exit. X, it. This is the season that whatever hindered you to where you didn't have the strength to break it, this is the season that God said not only are you going to get your exit, but you're getting ready to be an X at what seduce you, an X at what hurt you, an X who used you. You're getting ready to be an X at that thing. Whatever it is getting ready to be X'd. And God is going to allow them, he's allowed them to watch you from afar. Keep watching. I told you monitoring spirits, they watch you. They wait for harvest seasons to come. Please hear me. I almost want to start praying. I got to be careful. In Judges chapter 6, the Bible said when it came down to the children of Israel, for 7 years, that the Midianites took advantage of, it said they never came when it was time to sow. They only came in the harvest season, and they would take the harvest, take the cattle, take the oxen. For 7 years they did this. They watched the harvest season come. They watched it and they took what they had sown. And there's a scripture that said, no longer that what you sow will be taken. It said, but what you have sown, you will now eat it. I will no longer allow your enemy to steal your corn and your bread, but you shall eat the works of your hand and the works of your labor. That this would be the season that even the watchers have to sit back and watch you eat. Watch the increase and the favor that's on your life. Watch this, please hear this. This is that season. The Bible said, please hear me. And this, I'm going to end it when I say this. From Genesis chapter 37 to Genesis chapter 41, we see that Joseph, Lord Jesus, and I'm trying, Lord, I'm trying. We see in Genesis chapter 37, Joseph gives a dream. He reveals his dream, but the evil watchers are listening. So you think they said, you'll have dominion over us. They never said that you would be king over us. They used the word dominion, which means they understood the authority that God gave Adam about dominion. They knew that Joseph was getting ready to operate in a place of dominion and authority. I've given you all the power over the enemy, and nothing shall by any means harm you. Jesus would give that same authority that he was going to give Adam, that he would give his son, that he would give it to the apostles. But Joseph had dominion, and his brothers had the interpretation. They could interpret his dream when he didn't understand it. So some people are listening to what God is telling you, and they know now I need to attack you, because what's getting ready to take place in the earth is your dream is getting ready to be manifested. Your vision is getting ready to be manifested. This is the reason why it's your attack, because you didn't understand. See, some people will come in your life only because of your dream. Only because of your vision, only because of your plan, only because God is going to make you a teacher, only because you're going to get your own ministry, only because God is going to give you your business. So some people come in your life to try to destroy you because they're watching you, because of the vision that God gave you. And many of us don't know and understand it. God gave Joseph a dream and his brothers interpreted it. So you think you're going to have dominion over us? Watch this. And in Genesis chapter 41, Joseph had a dream. But in Genesis chapter 41, Pharaoh has a dream. And Pharaoh brings the dream to Joseph. He brings the dream to Joseph. Joseph interprets the dream. Watch this. When Joseph interpreted his dream, then his dream is now manifested. Okay, let me explain it. Pharaoh brings Joseph his dream. Joseph understood the timing. Pharaoh brings Joseph his dream. But Joseph didn't realize the moment that he revealed Pharaoh's dream, his dream was now getting ready to be fulfilled. Hear what I'm saying? And the Bible said, they told Joseph to change your clothes and to shave. This was the last time that Joseph would change his garments. Watch this. That when now he changed his garments, his family couldn't recognize him. The same people that wanted to kill his dream because they said, here comes this dreamer, let's kill him to see what would happen because of his dream. They was monitoring him when he couldn't even see them. They were monitoring his dream. They were trying to kill him because what God gave him. They were monitoring his life. Watch this. And Joseph went from the pit to the prison, now to the palace. Please hear this. Being persecuted the whole way. Persecuted the entire time that he was in Egypt because he was a slave. Didn't understand that his dream was getting ready to be fulfilled. Watch this, please. Let me tell you what season you have entered into. This is the season that you got to remember that years later, after Joseph becomes king or prince of Egypt, that don't you know that his children should have taken Joseph's role because of bloodline? Joseph superseded Pharaoh's bloodline when he got that position. Don't you know that Potiphar should have took Joseph's position? Because Potiphar was the king's, Pharaoh's right-hand man. Joseph skipped Potiphar, the boy who threw him back in prison because his wife lied and said Joseph tried to sleep with her. This same person, just hear what I'm telling you. This same person that Joseph superseded, now I'm going to say something spiritually. Don't you know that they had gods that was in Egypt? There were gods that was in Egypt that was watching Joseph. But they couldn't stop Joseph because even the gods of Egypt was paralyzed because it was Joseph's time. They were paralyzed to stop him from getting in his position. Can I tell you that today? That it doesn't matter what spirit, what person, what God, what deity, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, that you're going to have power to step in your rightful role because God is bringing you into a position and it doesn't matter. Watch this. And all they can do is watch you. Even though they didn't like you, celebrate. Joseph took the position and brought his family in that wanted to kill him from the famine. See, this is why God got you going and leading you, got you out front. This is why you can't look behind. This is why you got to stay focused. This is why you got to be more attentive. You can't be worried and concerned about what's behind you when God's got you out front. This is why. This is why everybody's eyes on you. There was a secular artist who's dead now. And one of the songs he sung was All Eyes on Me. Monitoring spirits. And you have every eye that's on you. You have friends, families, frenemies, enemies. You got all, and you even have eyes that are on you in the spirit realm. Demonic entities are watching you. All eyes are on you. And for some reason, you think that you're not going to succeed. They're monitoring you. They're watching you, but they can't stop you. This is a season where you will not, listen, and don't be disturbed by the noise. Okay. When you hear a voice tell you ain't going to succeed, rejoice. When somebody come to you and tell you you'll never be nothing, rejoice. This is why. You have to be able to learn to hear your elevation when the enemy speaks. Okay. Watch this. I want you to hear this. Why would somebody come to you in a 24-hour period and tell you you ain't going to be successful? Out of everybody, why would they come to you and say, you'll never have nothing? You'll never get that promotion. Why would they come to you if they weren't watching you? How do they even know what you're going to do? Because these are monitoring spirits. Watch this, please hear me. I want you to hear this. Don't ever be deterred and get upset about people saying that you will never have, you'll never achieve, and you'll never do. This is why. You have to be able to discern that this person works for the father of lies. Watch this. And Satan, who is the father of lies, he's already heard God release your blessing. So this is why he comes to you to try to disturb you, because he already heard from God that you're getting ready to get your breakthrough. So when somebody comes to you and tell you what you'll never have, you start rejoicing because you know that it's a lie. And you know he's the father of lies. Oh, I hear the truth in your lie. Since you say I wasn't going to be successful, you've already heard that I'm going to be successful. I start rejoicing. Because you wouldn't come to me and you wouldn't lie to me if you didn't know what was getting ready to come to me. You knew. That's why you came to me. That's why you whispering to me. That's why you talking to me. The enemy doesn't talk unless God spoke first, and he heard him. Oh, you heard the conversation from heaven. That's all you've heard. So since you've heard what God said, now you coming to me to try to trick me, to try to deceive me, because you have been watching me. But you're going to watch me in this season get my breakthrough. You're going to watch me drive in my blessing. You're going to watch me walk in my house. You're going to watch me come in my ministry. You're going to watch me tear your kingdom down. You're going to watch me in this season. Luke chapter 22. Satan knew that Jesus had given Peter keys. He knew that Peter had keys because Jesus said, who do men say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And Peter said, you're the Christ, the Son of God. Flesh and Peter. Cephas, Peter, flesh and blood didn't give that to you. But nobody but my Father. Watch this. So Satan was not only listening, but he was watching. Who in the world do you give keys to? Listen, it wasn't keys to the earth, it was keys to a kingdom. Please. And the reason Satan wanted Peter, because he wanted access back to the kingdom. He no longer had access to the kingdom of heaven. He wanted access to that kingdom. So in order to get access to that kingdom, he had to come to one that he was watching that had keys. I give unto thee keys to the kingdom. Whatsoever you bind on earth, I'll bind. Satan said, wait a minute. I heard what you told him. So in Luke chapter 22, it says, Simon, Simon, Satan has a desire to sift you as wheat. But he said, but nevertheless, don't cry, don't worry. I've already prayed that your faith not fail. The enemy is only coming after your keys. He's coming because God has promoted you. He said, I've given you keys to a king. So Satan was watching. He's been watching you. He's been watching. This is what Jesus said. The prince of this world cometh. In John chapter 14, the prince of this world cometh, but he'll find nothing in me. Well, how can he come if he didn't know my location? If he wasn't watching? He's been watching you. He's been after you. He's been chasing you. But listen, it's too late because God has already blessed you. It's too late. It's too late. He's out of time. The Bible said, had they known they was crucifying the Lord of glory, they would have never persecuted him. They would have never killed him, not realizing. And it's the same thing had they known, had they persecuted you, they were releasing the real you when they were watching you. If they knew. If they only knew that you may think these ashes mean something. You thought it was over. But you didn't realize that beauty was coming after these ashes. You thought because I was mourning and you thought it was over. But you didn't realize because you was watching me in my mourning, but you didn't realize that it came when it came to mourning that the oil of gladness was coming. You thought because it looked like of my sorrowfulness, you didn't realize that another garment was being given to me. You didn't realize because of my shame, because of confusion. You didn't realize because you wanted me to come in shame and you was watching me in my shame. But the Bible said, for those that operate in shame in Isaiah chapter 61 and verse 7, for your shame and for your confusion, you shall reap the double. You shall have the double portion. You didn't understand. You thought that it was over for me, but you didn't understand when I was going through shame that God was getting ready to give me my double portion since you were watching me. You thought it was going to stop me, but it didn't stop me. It only increased me. The increase of the Lord is on your life. Listen, I'm telling you what I feel. The increase of the Lord is on your life. Please hear this. So some of you may be experiencing Jabez. The name Jabez, his mother named him Jabez. The name Jabez means sorry. Not realizing the enemy had been watching you, and because, watch this, he wanted you to feel sorry. Be sorrowful. But the one that was sorry is the same one that God said. And Jabez was more honorable than all of his brothers. And the Bible said that God enlarged his territory. Please hear me. While you're thinking that it's over, yeah, it's over. It's over for this season. Boy, it's over for this season that you're in. It's over for the stuff that you went through. It's over for, yeah, it's over. And the enemy is going to be sorry because this is a season where God is enlarging your territory. He's enlarging it. He just knew you were getting ready to give up. He knew that you were getting ready to quit. He knew that you were getting ready to throw in the towel because he knew how you were. Watch this, before your conversion. He knows the old you, but he don't know the new you. So he's trying to use old pain to get the old you to come back out. So he watched the old you. He knew the old you, but he thought the old you would destroy the new you. But he didn't understand that you are a new creature. All things are passed away. You can't use on me what you used last year. I'm a different person this year. My prayer life is different. My understanding is different. My heart is different. So you only know the old version of me. Yeah, woo. You only know the old version. Keep watching, you'll see my transformation. Keep watching. And people are frustrated because they say we tried everything. We did all what we can do. They ain't responding no more. They didn't step on your toe and you ain't say ouch, you say excuse me. I'll forgive you. Not understanding, you didn't realize you have been watching my life so long, but you've been watching old copies, old versions. In other words, this is the DVD version. You only got the 8-track. You got the cassette tape. You don't know that there's a change that has happened to me. There's something that is transforming me. And every day I get up, there's something new. Because the Bible says that I shall die daily. So, please, y'all, please hear me. Please hear this, please. Please hear me. Most people don't know that they're monitoring you. They don't know the second that you went to sleep that you died. Watch this. The second that you went to sleep, this is when the Bible said that we shall die daily. Watch this. Please hear me. Please hear this. Please hear me. Please hear me. Please. So the second that you die daily. So what you saw yesterday is not the person you're going to see today. Because today I was resurrected. Woo! You're looking at the resurrected me. Listen, so when Jesus had restrictions and limitations, after he resurrected, he can walk through walls. So what you think that I did do last day, yesterday, last week, so what you're taking images of me and you're watching me, but you don't know what I went through last night. You don't know that I died to myself. So where I had a limitation yesterday, I'm free today. Watch this. Even repentance changes you. So watch. He's only watching you to try to go before God to accuse you. Because he's the accuser of the brethren. Watch this. But Jesus reminds him after repentance that what he did or tried to do to you and tried to accuse you, Jesus reminded him, you see the nail prints in my hand. You see the holes in my feet. I was wounded for their transgressions, bruised for their iniquities, and the chastisement of my peace was upon them. And by my stripes they are healed. So you don't have access and to get into their life because their life is in me. They're hidden in Christ. They are new creatures. They are part of my body. So go and tell that. Since you're an accuser of the brethren, you a tattletale. Go and tell Jesus I died last night. Go and tell Jesus I repented. Since you're watching me like you're watching TV. These are monitoring spirits. This is your season. Watch this. Of access. Hear me. God is telling you tonight, access granted. Access granted. Access is granted. What? You don't have access, Satan, to even come into this dimension, this realm. You won't be able to see them. You won't be able to see them in this dimensional realm. You will not be able to see them. In other words, watch this. He can't see you because of the merger. Okay. What do I mean when I say that? Do you know that demons, it said Jesus we know and Paul we know. They couldn't tell the difference. Paul had merged with Christ so much that he said, I carry the marks of Christ, the stigmata in my body. There was no difference between Paul and Jesus. And some of us, because we are in him, we are in his body. When demonic powers see us, they can't tell the difference between you and him. He walks in you. He lives in you. He abides in you. See, this is how you truly walk in the different seasons. They don't see you. You're not even in the picture. The old you has died. The old you has passed away. So now you have become Christ in the earth, walking like him in the earth realm. Now you take on the image and likeness of God. And the enemy can't tell the difference between you and him. Why? Because they don't know, because they watch him. Now they can see the glory of the Lord that's in you. Okay. Watch this, please. So you think because of the suffering. This is why it states in Romans chapter 8, for the sufferings of this present time do not compare to the glory that shall be revealed within us. Watch this. But before, we were not keepers of glory. But now because of your suffering, then God gives you the glory. You can walk in it because of your suffering. And the enemy didn't understand that all the pressure and pain and suffering that you had to go through, he didn't realize it was transforming into glory. Please hear this. So you are carriers of glory. Whew. So when people see you, watch this. God allow you. He allowed for you to go through it first so people can watch you. You don't know why the sickness came. You don't know why the job you got fired. You don't know why somebody hit your car. You don't know why somebody attacked your kids. You don't know what's going on. You wondering why. Didn't realize that God had assigned for you to go through it first. Didn't know that people were watching you. Y'all, please hear me. The Bible said when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego went through the fiery furnace, the Bible said that when they saw him, they said, wait a minute, we threw 3 in. But there's a 4th one. Didn't realize that God had them. They were watchers. They were watching them while they put them in the fire. Didn't realize that they said the second that you went in, there was somebody that went in the same circumstance, that went in the same situation, that went in the same problem. God had them. Watch this. And God allowed you to go first. You want to know why? This is why. The Bible said when they finally called them out, they said this. They said that no other God can do what the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They said if anybody would say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I'll make their house out of a dunghill. God allows you to go through that first, so all the evil watchers, the witches, the warlocks, the sorcerers, your enemies, he allowed you to go through all of that so that anybody would say anything about the God you serve. They had to recognize your God. And they didn't realize that they were trying to curse but finna get converted. Didn't realize that God was getting ready to put a jurisdiction around you where you couldn't be touched. And right now, God is giving the enemy a restraining order when it comes to your life. In other words, it becomes a hedge. If the enemy goes beyond the hedge, then you have caught the thief. He's trespassed. He's come upon your property. And the Bible said when you catch the thief, he must return to you sevenfold. All right, this is why some of your stuff was confiscated while you were going through your trial. I'm done when I say that. I'm serious, I'm done. I'm done. In Genesis chapter 18, the Bible said that God came to Abram and Sarah in his tent. And the Bible said that God told Abraham, and Sarah heard him, said, tell Sarah at the time of life, she's going to have a child. Hear this now. And before the child could be produced, King Abimelech took her. Right when God said, at the time of life. So the reason that the enemy tried to confiscate your stuff, had you to lose your job, lose people in your family, people tripped out and flipped out on you, why you lost this and lost that, why some people got divorced. This is the reason why. The Bible said that, I want you to hear what he said. They took Sarah. King Abimelech took her before the time that she was getting ready to produce. He was monitoring her. The enemy understood time. I told you, he's a watcher of time. He's an observer of time. Notice it said at the time of life, he observed her life, and then he took her right before time. So it seemed like stuff has been taken away from you. Stuff has left you. You didn't realize it because the time of life was coming. But the God came to King Abimelech in a dream and said, if you don't return what you stole, he said that I'm going to not only kill you, but I'm going to kill everything in this country. And the Bible said that King Abimelech was so intimidated and afraid, it said that he gave the man gold, gave him silver, gave him men servant, gave him women servant, gave him cattle, gave him sheep, oxen, watch this, and gave him Sarah back. There were 7 things that King Abimelech took. He had to give back. The Bible said when you catch the thief, he must return to you sevenfold. So he can't just give back the stuff you lost. He's got to give back everything that you were supposed to have. He's got to give up his goods because he's been caught. You understand? He's watched you long enough. Just as Pharaoh had to watch the children of Israel leave. And they were promoted. The enemy will watch you get promoted in this season. He will watch you leave the place of bondage. He will watch you leave the place where you have been chained. He will watch you operate in the place of freedom, just as it was with Jesus. And Satan left him for a season. He's finna leave you for the season, and all he can do is watch you and get mad at you because you're free from his clutches. He didn't realize that he was a monitoring spirit and he was an observer of time. Because he understands that his time is short. His time is short in your life. He only has a certain amount of time, and his time is up. He's watched you long enough. This is your season to move forward. This is your season to excel. This is your season where God is going to equip you. I don't know this for, but this is for somebody that's watching. You've been looking for a house. And you've just been waiting and you've been praying. But I'm telling you this tonight. The Lord said that house is yours. It's yours. You've been meditating on it. You didn't seen the house. And the Lord said that house is yours. It's yours. I don't prophesy about material stuff, but somebody's been really believing God for a house. And the Lord said that house is yours. And watch the favor that comes with it. You don't even have the money for the down payment or the closing costs, but watch the favor that's getting ready to come because of your hardships. It's coming. This is why the Bible says, and I give you scripture to hold on to. He give you houses that you didn't build. He's giving you houses that you didn't build. That house is yours. Somebody else built it, but you finna benefit it. You about to benefit from the house that was built by somebody else's hands. You're finna walk into it. Why? Because you have been watched, tormented, and fought long enough. The rewarder is coming, and now the enemy can do nothing but watch you be blessed. Listen, I thank you for tuning in tonight on the Vision Channel and Deliverance Temple House of Refuge. Listen, we'll see you next week on at Deliverance Temple House of Refuge.